Hey guys, what's up? I hope you had a happy holiday and are having an excellent start to the new year. If you guys are watching this video, then you're probably curious as the best way to go and travel to Cuba. If you're in the United States, you know that it's been very difficult to travel to Cuba for a while. So I wanted to put together a little bit of a video describing how we did it, discussing some of the legalities around it, and definitely some best practices and tips and tricks. First things first, if you guys are somewhat unsure and you're just thinking about going to Cuba, I'll give you a little bit of a word of warning. If you're looking for just a beach resort area that you can sit back, relax on a beach, and have a pina colada, Cuba is definitely not the place for you. But if you are looking to kind of explore an area that's completely different from where you live now, and you really like to get out and adventure, then you should definitely consider Cuba. When considering on traveling to Cuba, the best times to go are from November to April, because you avoid hurricane season and a really hot, humid summer. In the winter when we were down there, it still was about 80 to 85 degrees every day, so I can only imagine what it was like in the summer. So first things first to discuss is definitely how do you get there. A big common misconception here in the United States is that Cuba has completely opened up. It hasn't. There's still an embargo in place, and it is still technically illegal to travel to Cuba. That being said, there are 14 different exceptions for which you can qualify for a trip to Cuba, and I'll link those down below, a website to where you can find those 14 exceptions. And basically what you guys will find is a lot of those exceptions were written very vaguely on purpose so that travelers could find a way to qualify under those if they didn't necessarily have a pure professional purpose for going. Now I want to be clear, in no way am I endorsing illegal travel to Cuba. I would certainly recommend that you guys make sure that you fit under one of those 14 different criteria before booking a trip. But keep in mind that an American hasn't necessarily been fined for traveling to Cuba in about 10 years. So if the pure legality of it is the one thing that's stopping you from going, I would encourage you to see if you can fit under one of those criteria and go. Now, along with those 14 exceptions, travel there has become a lot easier as well. There are a lot of U.S. direct flights actually straight into Havana and other cities in Cuba on 7 different airlines: JetBlue, Delta, United, American, Southwest, and even Frontier Airlines has one. I think so does Spirit, but I wouldn't recommend them. So once you book your flight, you'll need a tourist visa, which should come either with your flight or you'll buy at your last departing gate before arriving in Cuba. So for us, we just got that along with our plane ticket when we were leaving from JFK. If you're not sure what comes with your plane ticket that you're purchasing, definitely recommend that you just contact the airlines or search their website for facts. I know JetBlue had a very easy to find, easy to understand fact page on their website about traveling to Cuba. So now that you have your flight booked, you need to find a place to stay. Hotels are typically booked out almost a year in advance, and if they're not, they're very expensive. So I would definitely recommend that you guys take a look at Airbnb, or if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, you can decide to not book a room, and when you get there, try and find one in a casa particulares. Now, many of these places are the exact same as Airbnb's. The only difference is the host had an internet connection and a steady one, so they were able to post that on Airbnb as opposed to just waiting for when travelers arrive. That being said, I would definitely recommend just booking ahead on Airbnb. I think we got an excellent place to stay for about $60 a night, so it certainly wasn't very expensive. If you guys don't have an Airbnb account, I will link my joint account thing below, and you guys will actually get $35 off your first stay. Okay, so here are some very important tips for going, either before you go or when you're there. First things first, you need to make sure that you bring euros to exchange. If you go to Cuba with US dollars, they'll take an extra 10% off. So definitely switch to euros before you leave, and then upon arriving in Havana or anywhere else in Cuba, switch to the Cuban currency there. If you want to try and use the Cuban peso, 25 pesos is equal to 1 convertible. And guys, I would highly recommend that if you go, you bring a little bit of excess cash and maybe keep that in euro and don't exchange it right away. But if you find out you need it, then do so, because cash is literally the only thing that many places will accept. There's no credit cards available or accepted anywhere. And even if there is, I think we were in one place, the cigar factory, that we were at accepted credit cards. They do not accept American credit cards. So make sure you bring enough cash. And I know this is a common thing for a lot of trips, but guys, if you can, please pack everything in a carry-on. The airport baggage claim is archaic in Havana, and I can't imagine it's much better in any other Cuban city. But we heard several horror stories when we were down there about people losing their baggage, and we actually didn't receive our baggage for about 2.5 hours after we got off the plane, at which we were just kind of sitting around in the airport waiting for it, hoping it would come off the conveyor belt, and thank God it finally did. But if I were to go again, I would definitely make sure I packed everything in a carry-on. If you guys are going to be landing in Havana or spending any time at all in Havana, from the airport, it should cost about 25 convertibles by taxi. If someone tries to charge you any more, tell them you only want to pay 25. Sometimes unofficial taxis will try and get a higher price out of you. And then once in Havana, you really should only spend about 5 convertibles to go anywhere within the city. If you get into an unofficial taxi, they will definitely try and kind of broker their way and bargain their way to get you paying more. And at sometimes, you know, you just want to go somewhere, and so, you know, you'll deal with the extra, you know, 2 convertibles, the 7 convertible trip. But if you guys are kind of running low on cash or trying to keep an eye on what you spend, you should not go anywhere in Havana for less than 5 convertibles by taxi. Another big thing you guys should plan for is to not have internet. Yes, internet is somewhat available. You'd need to buy an internet card from the government. Those cost only about 3 convertibles, but they're only good for about an hour. But they're kind of a pain to get unless you're staying in one of the hotels. And, you know, I don't know how much use you get out of it for an hour or how quick it is. We certainly did not go ahead and do that ourselves. So, you know, make sure you guys have a way to get around, navigate, whether it's actually bringing a physical map or downloading an offline version on your phone. But make sure you guys have a way to navigate, because you should probably expect to not have internet, and even if you do, it'll probably only be for an hour or so at some random point during your trip. And then one final tip I have for you guys, may be useful, it may not be, I don't know. But if you're down there, one of the big draws is obviously Cuban cigars. They're famous throughout the world. But if you guys are interested in buying one, either for yourself or for some family members, only buy them from the official factories and stores, which are the Casa de Habanos. Anything else, anything that anybody else tries to sell you off the street, they may mention that there's a cigar festival going on and that there are cut prices here and here, but those are going to be fake. They may still be excellent cigars as they're still made in Cuba, however they will not be the real thing. If you guys found this video helpful, please give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you have any additional questions, feel free to either comment them below or reach out to me through my various social media accounts that are linked in my channel or my website. Thanks for watching, guys, and have safe travels.